3:05 now. I was hoping that Reverend Boney would join us at least, because he seemed to have some input that he wanted to make to be sure that we got in there, but I'll just rely on
Yeah.
his note.
Well, why don't we ask Lisa? Lisa, how confident are you that are we 90% there, 95% there, or?
Well, so yeah, I think the answer is we're there. We just
Okay.
need, it's a time management issue. So
Yeah.
we need to delete. So Reverend Boney did put I did want to talk to him because he did have these additions. So I'm gonna go ahead, and what I'll do is pretend that we're having our presentation right now. So how
That's
about
what
Yeah. Well,
we would do a dry run.
okay.
well, somebody just jumped on.
Reverend Boney, there he is. All right.
Selena, sharing capabilities.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good to see you, sir. I'm glad you made it.
Lisa, you should have them. Is that not working for you?
I said share, and now I do, but I didn't have it initially, so that's fine. I got it now. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So I do want to start with first, we had a question. So you all said that you're going to work with Fox News. Is it an on camera or radio only?
We are going to go to the studio and we will air at 8:17 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Okay, so as we continue to go through this information, you asked what the top 3 talking points are. I want folks to think about that.
Well, it was due at 3 p.m. That's why I said ASAP, please. So that's already gone.
Well, yes and no, because they still might need it. So go ahead.
Okay.
How did the request with Fox News come out?
They sent a request over to Selena.
And she sent it out to us.
Okay. The ministers have been very careful with these kinds of things, especially with Fox News, because the history is they will take what you say and then when you see it, it is completely different from what you said, and they've got a history of doing that. And so I know personally, I've rejected their interviews several times and told them that I wouldn't talk to them. But you have to be, anyway, I'm not sure this is a great idea. That's my opinion.
And that's what local Fox, Reverend Boney?
Yes, yes.
Really? I've had some interactions with them.
When the Black Ministers Conference supported the superintendent when she needed to be finalized in that job, and they called us several times, and after we issued our letter, our formal letter, and we refused to talk with them because their history, we know what they do. They take what you say and they already have an angle of what they're after, and so they turn around and use that against you. Actually, the last meeting where we went down to the county council when they were questioning the superintendent, we noticed that they were being very careful. They were being very careful in who they chose, people that were coming out of the meeting. They chose people, in our opinion, that will be speaking against the superintendent, and the rest of us, they just let us walk on by. So anyway, it's got to be very careful.
I understand that, definitely, and that's what the media can and does do. They did ask us to provide the questions and statements we wanted to make, so that is a bit encouraging, but I think that your point is definitely noted, because media does do that just to sensationalize and to have their own agendas put forward.
My advice, we honestly just be very cautious.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I thank you for that. I understand.
Yeah, even as a live interview, I mean, they could twist the questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen it over and over and over again.
Yeah. And I even when I saw it, I said, I don't know if we want to do Fox. They're not really our friends,
I understand.
Selena, you have any take on that or what?
Remember, we're being recorded. I just want to remind folks about.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll leave it alone then. We'll leave it alone. I mean, I think these are honest opinions, though. I've not had that experience, but I've certainly seen it in print.
I have seen it. I haven't personally had that experience, but I have seen it.
Right. Okay.
I
All
think
right.
it's a good point, and I'm glad it came up. Thank you.
All right. So the other thing I wanted to let you all know was that last night I attended the YCP monthly meeting, and they did a presentation, Selena there, for the state violence, but also what we've been doing in the anti-hate task force.
Okay.
So you will know that. They did have some really good questions.
Hey, how you doing, man? Okay. Hey, Bill, how you doing? Ron, right. Good to meet
Hey,
you.
Ron, mute yourself, please.
What's the sweatshirt, man?
Man, where your boat shoes at?
Ron,
I got rubber soles, bro.
Ron can't hear me.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tiffany.
No, I was saying mute yourself, but that's okay. Go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I muted
Don't
myself.
go on, mute yourself. All right.
I'm sorry.
This evening,
You're healthy? Yeah.
the Black African American cohort will doing a presentation for the anti-hate task force. And so we want to welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. And we want to start the presentation by saying we still have a dream that hate can be eradicated. And so we ask that if you have questions, if you can hold the questions until the end of the presentation so that we'll have an opportunity to get through the presentation. So again, thank you. And I am going to put my timer on to see how we do.
Okay.
First, I want to talk about who's a part of the Black and African American Anti-Hate Task Force. We are comprised of Mr. Reverend, are you Reverend or Mr. Ron Wright, who is the co-chair? He works with
Not a reverend.
Ministries Conference. We have Ms. Tiffany Kelly, who's also the co-chair, who works with Rose Petals Consulting. Tiffany, you want to put what I had in there before?
Community organizer. No.
Okay.
Because that's not really completely what I am now.
Okay, so Reverend James Boney, who's a Black Ministries Conference member. And then we have Jacqueline Denard, who works with, amongst many organizations, the People's Committee, Community Baptist Church. We have Mr. Joseph Hooks, who is the 480 Club founder. Myself, again, my name is Lisa Taylor. I'm the chair of the Committee Against Hate Violence. And we then, of course, have Director James Stowe, who is the director of the Office of Human Rights for Montgomery County. So in order for us to really talk about what's happening now, we always think it's important to go back about what has happened in the past and who we are. So who are we? African American history began in the 16th century with Africans from West and Central Africa being sold to European slave traders and transported across the Atlantic to the Western Hemisphere, where they were sold as slaves. Now, this is a fact that most people know. And so we also want to do a deeper dive and talk about who we are. As African Americans and Blacks, we are an ethnic group consisting of Americans with partial or total ancestry from any of the Black racial groups of Africa. We comprise 14.2% of the total US population, according to the US Census. And we are the third largest racial ethnic group in the United States after white Americans and Hispanic and Latinos. A sizable share of African Americans, Blacks, have recent immigrant connections. And that's especially true for Montgomery County. We know that about 12% of Black people were born in foreign countries, and roughly 9% are second-generation Americans. These two account for about 21% of the overall population. Again, we want to talk a little bit about who we are as Black and African Americans, because a lot of who we are is our faith. So we did a review looking at what the percentage of faith populations we have in this country, the largest being Black Protestant at 59%. We also have evangelical Protestants at 15%, mainline Protestant at 4%, Roman Catholics at 5%, Jehovah's Witnesses are 1%, and then we have other 1%, most notably the Muslim population. Again, this is important to note that this is a population for the entire United States of America and doesn't necessarily reflect the population of Montgomery County. And I say that because we know that there are a lot of Muslims in the Montgomery County area who are also African American, as we heard from the Muslim cohort presentation. So we reached out to Kate Chance, who works with the faith communities for Montgomery County, and asked her what was the population for Muslims. She indicated that there is no tracking for that for faith traditions, but she reports that there are approximately 15 mosques in our county. All right, so now we're going to get some wisdom from a Dr. Chris Marsh. Why is slavery still relevant today? So, we have this picture here that I want everyone to take a look at. But essentially, the free labor of slavery enabled America to grow into a world power with the sale of tobacco and cotton on the world market. After the Civil War, Blacks were technically free, but in practice were not, because there was little done to lift them to the same economic level as white America. So we think of it as the original sin, charged with hate, that continues to be the gateway for hate bias incidents against Black and African Americans. Again, I'll give you a second to look at the cartoon so you can see it and understand why the past vestiges of discrimination affect current day life.
Well done. You did that well.
Thank you. Okay, I'm at 4 minutes. And we also want to talk a little bit about the history of hate. So we know in 1619, Africans were brought to America. They landed on Fort Monroe in Hampton, Virginia, and they were sold as slaves. And we go throughout the history where we see Black folk being mistreated, undermined, marginalized, exploited. And we can talk about the peonage of sharecropping, where African Americans and Blacks had to work. I'm messing up my words. Had to work basically they had to work to pay off debt, and the result of which was that they never really built wealth. And many times they were working. It was like a treadmill of work. They would work, pay off debt, and never really achieve much more than that. And so some people think of it as the enslavement of Black and African people. So even though they were free, they were not free. And then, of course, we can talk about 1896 to 1954. The date 1954 is there. That's with the Brown v. Board of Education case. But Jim Crow segregation was the notion that you could create separate but not equal. But Jim Crow segregation was separate but equal. But we know from Brown v. Board of Education, that case that says separate was not equal, because what we saw was when you separate it, Black was always inferior to that of white, all the services that were provided, if they were in fact provided to the Black community. And then from 1882 to 1967, we saw numerous lynchings of Blacks by whites without a trial. And we know that has happened. We've seen historical pictures of it. We know it. And the sad part about that whole history was it took a very long time for U.S. Congress to outlaw lynching. More than 200 bills were presented, and every time they failed. And then, of course, from 1619 to present, we see the systemic police brutality and killing of Black people. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in our next slide. This is where I need a stat from, I think, Ron. Or no, this is a stat from Reverend Boney. Who are we? Out of the 1,944 police killings of Black people between the time of 2013 to 2019, charges were brought against police officers in just 3% of the cases, which is fewer, and then fewer than 1% of the police were convicted of a crime. And so here we have George Floyd. Of course, we all know about this and what happened. And the idea that police violence was normalized because a police officer, of course, kneeled on George Floyd, and he said over and over again, "I can't breathe." And that was allowed to occur, not just by the police officer, but by his fellow coworkers, other police officers. And then so we see a history of brutality of Black men, particularly by the police. So that's our history. So let's talk about what we did for our work here in our presentation today. We will talk about a little bit about all the efforts that were made, but I wanted to share with you how we came about our observations, our recommendations. And we conducted surveys of pastors and ministers and other church members. We held listening sessions with MCPS, the NAACP, and other community members. We also reviewed available data, that's not right, date, from the school district. police department, and other non-governmental organizations. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about what we found. So this is part of our survey where the question was, do you feel you have been a victim of racism or discrimination in Montgomery County? And of course, we see the green that says yes at close to 80%, with no being just over 20, I would say 25%. Next, we have a graph about where did racism or discrimination occur? And so we asked folks, when does this happen? And the choices were, just in case you can't see, school or place of education, or stores, restaurants, and public places of accommodation, or hospitals or medical center, or your place of employment, or courts, or police. And so when you take a look at this, again, we see top two being stores, restaurants, and public places, as well as schools or places of education. Now we're going to show you a little bit about what we've seen in terms of the actual anecdotal, factual evidence about discrimination and hate at our places of worship. So we know that with the advent of the Black Lives Matter movement, we've seen a lot of churches and other folks support the Black Lives Matter, and they do so often with signage. And so the idea is that we are community in unity, and we are making a good faith effort as a Montgomery County place where we live, where we work, where we worship, to support African Americans and Black folk. But what we see here is a consistent and persistent destruction of our Black Lives Matter signs. So for example, on June 13th of 2023, Ark and Dove Presbyterian Church in Odenton, their Black Lives sign was vandalized. In November of 2016, we saw in Silver Spring, the word Black was cut out of the sign, leaving the message, Lives Matter. And that happened at Christ Congregational Church. In 2016, we see St. Mark's United Methodist Church in Gaithersburg, which is a predominantly Black church. There were Black swastikas painted on the front door. And then 2006 for Seneca Community Church in Germantown, this is also, there was also a predominantly Black church. That church was defaced. And these are just a sampling of unfortunate actions where the Black community has been under attack, and those who represent and support an interest in bringing about change and fighting racial discrimination, hate bias, they have also been attacked as allies. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the Black Ministers Conference. And I would like to say that the Black Ministers Conference of Montgomery County is an alliance of predominantly Black churches in Montgomery County. They have joined together to promote the causes of the Black and African American community. And they focus on health and well-being of our churches, economic prosperity, equal education opportunity, racial justice and equality, equal access to healthcare, and to fight against and work to eliminate the threats of the Black community. And so they have recommendations that they wanted to share, which include here on this one, 5. And what I'll do is I will take a moment for you all to read these so that you have them. And just be reminded that a copy of this presentation will be available online, both in video, and I believe that the PowerPoint will also be available. I'll talk about 1 or 2, and then we can continue on with the second page. So the Black Ministers Conference recommends that we raise awareness of the impacts of racism and discrimination, and that we have stronger enforcement of hate bias laws and discrimination laws. And they also, on number 5, recommend timely reporting of race hate bias incidents, and holding the person, group, or organization accountable is one way to start that. And they recommend penalties so that people have, it's prohibitive to be racist. So that would include things such as financial fines, possible jail time, and identification on public lists for their hate crimes. Moving on to the second page for the recommendations. They would also recommend that we call out and stop using politically correct language. Instead, call a racist a racist. Have our white neighbors acknowledge that they are still benefiting from years of racism. Put more money in lower income Black areas of the county so that we truly are providing equal access and education, to give them the opportunity to know what it's not like to live paycheck to paycheck. Now we're going to turn to a little bit about the stats for the state, because I think that's informative of much of the work that needs to be done. And so what we did was we took a look at the 2022 State of Maryland Bias Report, and wanted to highlight all the counties that are here, but noted that of all the counties, unfortunately, Montgomery County had the highest in incidence for hate bias at 159 incidences. And then that represents 34% of the reported incidents. And so we are unfortunately a leader in hate. And I'm just going to let that sit for a second. We are a leader in hate. So then the question becomes for all of us, what are we going to do about it? Next, the State of Maryland Bias Report for 2022 outlines the type of bias that occurs that were reported. And again, just to say that the Montgomery County is a leader in hate, but we also know that in the significant number of reported incidents that 43.3% of the incidents were anti-Black or African American. So that most of the incidents reported were against our communities. And I think that needs to be said, because oftentimes we don't recognize when we look at the facts what it basically shows us. And the other important thing to remember as we're looking at the bias report and reported incidents is that there are certainly times when anti-Black African American actions happen and they're not reported. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is. Our next slide, we'll talk about stats that I have not received from Ron. we have to make a decision if we're going to keep this one in. But in 2022, the police department arrested a lot for hate crimes committed against Black people. Oh no, they arrested no one. Of this number, MCPS has something to say about this. I'm looking for this chart and I don't have it. So I'm going to just say, we'll see if we can keep this one in. And since 2023 of January, the number of hate crimes committed against Black people has risen by blank percent for the first 6 months, with almost the same proportionality in the previous phases, particularly the MCPS graph. So again, I'll wait for that for Ron. Okay. In addition to, it's not just about the numbers, so we want to talk about the stories that we heard. Stories that show pain, stories that show a lack of inclusivity, stories that show hate. And a part of the reason why we want to share the stories is that Black folks are not reporting because they don't think that their reports matter. They think no remedial action will be taken. For example, we heard of a story of a mixed race couple, it was Black-white. They were on their daily evening walk when a white man in a car began to follow them and continue to follow them for many minutes, yelling racial slurs. When they called the police, they said that no action was taken. And I was the one who heard their story. And I have to say, what really moved me was that they said, this is where we live. This is our home. And now they're concerned about taking walks in the park because they don't want this man, this racist, someone of hate, to do more than talk. They're concerned about their own safety in the place where they live. So for law enforcement and hate crimes, we have also data about, okay, the last slide was about what police don't do, but we can also talk about what they won't do. And that is, there are concerns about the state's attorney and their unwillingness to prosecute perpetrators who are perpetrators of hate and violence and against people in the African American community. And so that we feel that that's a failure for Black people and Black students in particular. And even while they don't prosecute acts of hate violence, they seem to have a good ability to prosecute African American and Blacks. So we see that there are large disparities in arrest, prosecution, adjudication, and in the punishment of Black folks. So this is a graph that talks about cases filed with the defendants by race. And as you see, 47% of the cases filed are with defendants as African Americans. We're gonna have to work on the slide because it's a little convoluted. Moving on. I now track my time. It is now 19 minutes and I'm on halfway there. So we have a trend in perpetrators that we have seen, and the trend is this. Largely, these acts of hate crimes and violence are committed by young white males, primarily expressing racism and prejudice against Black people in the forms of physical assault, intimidation, racial slurs, and the like. Many of them can be linked to national hate groups. So it's important that we know that they have much support in the hate community. And as such, we should have much support to address the concerns, which we'll talk a little bit about later. Even though these a lot of the acts of hate are occurring, again, we see that white male perpetrators are seldom prosecuted for their crimes against Black people. So again, we're talking about the police, and we want to talk about police now on messaging. This was a message that was sent out after Israel sustained terrorist attacks from Hamas. It was sent out from Chief Jones from the police department. And when we saw the message, we felt that it, in fact, could be read the wrong way. Montgomery County Police in this message appear to be biased against certain members of the African American community. We feel that while anti-Semitism is certainly a problem in Montgomery County, so is Islamophobia, which affects members of the Black and African American community. We know that we have a significant number of Muslims in our community. And so for this example, well-intended and appreciated in many ways, but it does highlight incorrectly that the conflict is between Israel and Palestine. But also it says, we have taken steps to enhance the safety of our Jewish community. And it doesn't really talk about other communities that might have been affected by the recent terrorist attacks in Israel. And so it's important when we say these messages that we say them understanding that police should be interested in ensuring and assuring that all of our communities feel that they are being protected and have safety in mind. And it's not just the Muslim community, or certainly African Americans want to feel that when they make that phone call after taking the walk in the park, that someone will answer and come and know that their experience matters and that their victimization should be addressed. So again, we're talking about police, and these are every month the Montgomery County Police do a wonderful job of showcasing the reports that they receive on hate bias crimes. As part of the Committee Against Hate Violence, we review these reports with the Community Engagement Office, which is led by Captain Jordan Satinsky. And so we are aware that we see a persistent, again, evidence of anti-Black, anti-African American hate. For example, on the 13th of September for this year, there was a physical confrontation that occurred where the boyfriend's mother shouted, "I hate you, you N-word." The mother did not approve of the relationship because someone in the relationship was Black or African American. And then we have a very same month, just 2 months ago, after the beginning of our efforts and our work in this area, we saw on the 16th of September, an unknown driver pull up to a pedestrian and then said, "Pick up your shit. Pick that shit up, you effing N-word." then pointed a gun at the African American and drove off. Then we also know in the same month, this is just 2 months ago, a student and teacher heard another student yell racial slur at a football game, which is another issue we've seen at sports, anti-Black and anti-African American animus through rhetoric. And so the school is handling the matter administratively, but the point is that, and we'll see this again, that our schools have some issues. And then of course, same month, a middle school student reported seeing racial and anti-Semitic language written on a desk. So just in the month of September, we saw 4 occasions and maybe more of anti-Black, African American hate. But we have seen this consistently throughout. In August, a teenager spray painted an anti-Black racial slur on a retaining wall of a commercial business. Same month, August, someone reported planting bombs in a school bathroom because of their anti-Black, anti-Semitic views. Same month, anti-Black graffiti was observed on the side of the building. There were no cameras and no permanent damage to the building, but it was there. And then of course, this isn't something that's just happened in 2023. We know, historically speaking, we've seen significant anti-Black and anti-African American hate. And I just pointed to one of the many, I could go on and on about in May 2016, we saw Flower Valley Elementary, which is in the 4th district for the police department. There was a noose hanging in front of the school. So again, messaging. And so we know that there is a problem, and we have found it consistently to be so. Now I'm going to play a video from from the co-chair, Ms. Tiffany Kelly. So I implore you to review, to sit back and watch and hear the stories right from the mouth of babes who talk about their experiences in Montgomery County. Tiffany, does this slide work?
Yes, it's coming up now. There you go.
Okay. Ooh, look at this. Also, I may have used my other computer. Sorry, guys. Time now is 25 minutes. We might have to not have it embedded.
I was able to play it earlier without a problem.
No, it's just loading. It's not.
Okay. Did you press that play at the bottom? You see that play? Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Tiffany Kelly, and I'm the co-chair of the African American Black Cohort of Montgomery County's Anti-Hate Task Force. Thank you for joining us this evening as we shed light on issues related to hate and bias within Montgomery County Public Schools. Let's get started. For nearly a century, schools for Black students in Montgomery County and throughout the South were denied the benefits provided to their entirely separate, but supposedly equal white counterparts. In 1954, the unanimous Supreme Court decision in Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka changed the face of public schools forever. For the most part, integration in Montgomery County happened smoothly, if not slowly, and its school system was declared fully integrated by 1961. 70 years after Brown versus Board of hate and bias and de facto segregation by race, ethnicity, language, and income continues to undermine student achievement in Montgomery County. MCPS community members believe that we over-discipline students of color. According to the chart on the screen, 87% of students who were recommended for expulsion in 2023 were African American or Latino. African Americans are the only racial ethnic group that is significantly overrepresented in suspensions relative to their total classroom experience of African American and Black students. According to the data provided by MCPS, the academic achievement of students who are Black and African American is significantly lower than their Asian and white classmates. The cohort recently had a listening session with MCPS that included nearly 100 MCPS students. The district detailed the efforts to address hate and bias, but the students' experience sounded considerably different than what the district was describing. Please listen to our students explain in detail what they face in reporting hate and bias incidents.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, I was one of the students Mr. Williams referred to speak, and
Okay.
I had a comment and question regarding some of like reporting incidents. So I like changed my Zoom name because I wanted to like stay anonymous. Is it okay for me to speak?
Yes.
Okay. So to give more context, I go to a majority school, and I know as a student, students don't typically want to go out their way to report incidents of hate unless it has had a major impact on them, because they may feel like it'll be more trouble than it's worth, and they themselves have been conditioned to deem it as minor. For instance, a friend of mine has had a teacher constantly make arrogant comments regarding race and has linked it to competence. This teacher has had a history of making uncomfortable comments regarding race. However, students are hesitant to take action because when reports have been made, no action has been taken. The teacher has held this reputation for years, so many students I have spoken to feel like it's a lost cause to complain. At my school, there are many instances similar to these where students have experienced microaggressions from teachers or their fellow classmates. In the internship I did over the summer, the Minority Scholars Cohort talked about how when microaggressions build up and a person is constantly being told harmful statements, it diminishes their self-esteem. No one wants to build up the courage to talk to an adult and be dismissed and have their concerns pushed under the table. It sets a precedent. Given this, I want to ask how will schools work to ensure the system put in place to report incidents are efficient, accessible, and change will be made?
What's next? We still have a lot of work to do, especially since the system that is designed to protect the well-being of students may not be functioning at the optimum level that is needed to fully and comprehensively address hate and bias in our schools.
Okay, I don't know what that is, so thank you. Now we're going to talk a little bit about our schools and what we've learned. So again, a lot of it is data driven, and we know that we have the recent anti-racist audit, which showed a lot of data about, including anecdotal stories about people's experience in the Montgomery County school system, but also in the wider Montgomery County. And so I want to give you some ideas about some of the stories that we've heard. One story is about a Black parent who was in an overnight van field trip. And at a part of the van field trip, when they were at an outside event, a white parent, it was an outside event that was only for students of that high school in another state. White parent grabbed the Black parent and asked him to leave. He said, "Why should I leave?" He says, "Because you don't belong here. This is only students for a Montgomery County high school." When the Black parent tried to explain that he belonged because he in fact was a parent of a student in that school, the white parent refused to believe him. He was shocked. Eventually, he was allowed to stay at the event because he was able to find his daughter who could vouch for him and say, "This is in fact my dad, and I, as an African-American student, belong." When the Black parent complained to the administration, it was initially met with no response. No action was taken until the incident. He threatened to report the incident to the police, and that's when the administration took him seriously. But that's just not the only story of hate we've seen. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Students and parents believe in MCPS that the complaint process about hate bias incidences are flawed. Another story, a white teacher said that all the Black students in his class looked alike, so it was impossible to know their names. Again, issue of bias. When the student reported it to the administration, no action was taken. And the student continued to expressed concern, parents became involved, and eventually the school responded after the NAACP was contacted. Another example of hate bias, but also another example of MCPS failing to respond when people complain about incidences of hate violence. Another example, the majority white varsity tennis team got involved with hateful messages that were captured in Snapchat by photo, which were anti-Black and anti-Semitic. When the administration was notified by a concerned parent, the students were disciplined, but nothing was done to remediate the hate. Nothing was done to address the hate. And it was evident that this particular hate incident was not reported to Montgomery County Police Department, which is supposed to be the protocol for the school system. And in addition to that, the coach who was knowingly aware of the hate did nothing and was not disciplined. He continues to remain in charge of the sport. And this is also an interesting fact that there are no Black students on this tennis team. Moving on, another example of a Black student being groped in the buttocks by white students who were making fun of his buttocks, and because he was Black. Again, when parents completed and submitted a bullying form, the school administration said, well, this was an unfortunate event, but it's not bullying because it only happened once. And unfortunately, the student, as a result of this experience and other racial forms of hate, decided to quit the band. And I believe the student was one of 2 African Americans in the band. And so now we just have one. So these are all the stories that we talk about in hate, and this is all the data that we have. So now we want to talk about our recommendations. We're at minute 35. And the recommendations we've basically divided into 3 categories. So we'll talk a little bit about that. One category being Montgomery County Public Schools, the second one being the criminal justice system, and the third being in the community and the county council overall. So now we're going to talk about the hate bias in the criminal system and our recommendations. We believe that the police department should significantly increase arrests of white male perpetrators of hate crimes and hate incidents that occur against Black students and Black people. We recommend that the state's attorney's office prosecute every white male perpetrator of a hate crime or incident to the fullest extent available by law. We also believe that the Montgomery County District and Circuit Courts work in conjunction with state and county legislatures so that they may reevaluate and update their guidelines for sentencing and take other punitive measures when people are victimized by hate crime. I'm gonna fix this because this is a different font than this 20. Moving on, some other recommendations for law enforcement. The county council should establish an anti-hate commission to include state's attorneys, the police department, and courts, also public safety stakeholders and community members, in order to identify and define the roots and motivations behind hate and hate incidences, dismantle and eliminate established hate groups and organizations, and work in concert to identify mechanisms to prevent radicalization of perpetrators, and also an effort to de-radicalize known perpetrators of hate. We also believe that we should work to enhance state and local victims funds to include extended payments for mental health care for victims of hate crime. Lastly, for police and law enforcement, we encourage the enforcement of mandatory reporting requirement when hate bias incidents happen, and hold police accountable for failing to comply with the reporting requirement. We recommend that the police better advertise the Ride Along program and encourage diverse communities to participate. We also recommend that when messaging to the community about safety, that the police is factually accurate and ensures all communities of police protections against hate and bias incidences. Moving on to hate in our schools, our recommendations include the following. We should establish guidelines for parents who support the school system that addresses the need to respect diversity and methods for conflict resolution for parents and students. We should also create a parent advisory committee with term limits that has a direct line of communication with the superintendent to discuss, review, recommend how to best deal with hate bias incidences. Additionally, we recommend that we have an anti-hate month, which is dedicated with circle thought, surveys, enrichment events like field days and block parties, that be implemented for the county as well. We recommend that you add a presentation on anti-hate MCPS programs, policies, in middle school and high school orientations during the opening or first months of school. We recommend creating a random survey to screen staff for anti-hate bias. There are also simple things you can do, which they can send a very powerful message, like creating a red stop sign at the entrance of MCPS properties and saying, "No place for hate, hate not allowed." Something similar that we see when you have signage about forbidding the prohibition against tobacco. We recommend creating a multicultural advisory committee for all levels, like that which is available for MCPS, created for student council. I need to know a little bit more about that one, but I'll check that one out later. Okay. Lastly, we recommend that that the school system do complete the mandatory reporting requirements of hate bias. Again, we saw the tennis team activity occurred, there was no report. And then when there is no report, we should hold administrators accountable for failing to comply with the reporting requirement. We also recommend the school district revisit the Wilmer Hill report, which was a report that came out after students were sodomized in a high school football team. There were several recommendations about how to deal with bullying and hazing. And while those were specific to that incident, some of them can be transferred to dealing with bullying and hazing because of race. We recommend that MCPS better advertise the hate bias incident form, which is a new form that we created as a result of the anti-racist audit. And that way we need to educate administrators about the form and the reporting process. And finally, we recommend publishing hate bias incidents in the same manner that MCPD does for an annual report for the school system so that we know where we stand with hate. The next thing, we have recommendations for our community. I'll do that, ending hate bias in our community. We recommend that the Office of Human Rights expand outreach to the community so that people know about the partnership fund. We recommend that county officials hold community meetings that target African American communities, educate the community about efforts in the county. And then also, in addition to that, so there's one outward facing where the county talks to the community about what they're doing. But then the second type of meeting would be a listening session where the county listens to what the community has to say and can hear the stories that we hear every day, the stories that we live in our lives, so that they have a better understanding about not only our experience in Montgomery County, but what is working and what is not. We also recommend that the county council adopt a resolution, much like that adopted for anti-Semitism, for Islamophobia. We recommend that the county council work with the newly created Civil Rights Office of Maryland State's Attorney General's Office to assist with the development of civil rights policies for the state. We recommend that the county consider having more activities like the Friendship Picnic, which brings diverse communities together to celebrate Montgomery County's diversity. And lastly, we also have recommendations about what better the county can do to fight hate. We recommend that the county council facilitate or organize bystander training for the community. We recommend that the county council and county executive take actions that support federal passage of the Local Law Enforcement Hate Crimes Prevention Act, which aims to expand federal jurisdiction to prosecute criminal violations of hate. We also finally recommend that we advertise to the community the state of Maryland office that deals with victims' rights, so that even when Montgomery County does such a great job in this area, that we can always support it with the stateside state support. And those are recommendations for the hate violence that we see from the African and Black perspective. Now we will take questions, and I'll ask all of my colleagues and members of the African American and Black cohort to come on screen to assist with answering the questions. Thank you. 43 minutes. Thoughts?
My question is to Selena is, you know, are we going to be allowed 43 minutes? I clocked it at 44.
Yeah, I clocked it at 45. No, you will not be able to do 45 minutes.
What will we be able to do?
You could probably get away with 35.
35?
That's 8 to 10 slides.
Well, I recommend deleting 21, first of all. That's the one that we had so much discussion about.
Oh, no, you're not taking my 21. But you went right for below the belt. I don't like Okay.
The other suggestion, Lisa, is in the recommendations. You don't really have to go through every recommendation. My advice would be to highlight 1 or 2 on each slide, and just tell people that, like you said before, it is being recorded. There's a PowerPoint presentation, and so if they want to look through later, they're welcome to do so. And so that would save you some time. You won't have to go through each and every one.
Okay, that's a good idea.
And I know because of the recommendations of the Black Minister Conference, a lot of those you touch on again in a different way in later recommendations. And so you could probably just hit one or 2 of those, and that would be good. That the first or second one, like the couple first 2. And
Okay.
then, kind of make that statement that you're not going to hit each and every recommendation as you go through them. That'll cut some of your time.
So that gives me, I can probably shave off 3 minutes for any slide we can get rid of beside. Well, first of all, I don't have any data for Ron's slides. So okay, let me make a counter offer. Okay. I'm looking at slide 17 here. Let me go back to share my screen. Sharing screen. I have no data for this slide whatsoever.
17. Okay. Oh yeah. I mean, especially if we don't have the data.
Oh, hey Lisa, I sent you 2 graphs this morning.
Oh, you trying to send something while I'm working? Okay, let me. So Ron,
Yeah.
oh, I thought you were fishing. I don't know what happened.
And I sent you, I compiled the 2023 numbers for hate incidents against Black African Americans. And I sent that to you in a summary as well.
Okay. I'll take a look at that. Is there any
Okay.
slide we can get rid of? We got to get rid of one slide.
Yeah, well, that one, that first one kind of gives you the universe, but I think we've already said that though, or we say it.
Which one?
The first one that needs additional data. Isn't that something that's already said by Reverend Boney?
We're talking about 17?
Well, you have the bias incident report.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that what I got is the same thing, I believe, from MCPD. Is that where yours from? The 2022 MTB?
Yeah, the 2022 Maryland report. Yeah. Hey,
right.
No,
So
you're talking about a different report. So Ron's talking about the police report from Montgomery County. You're talking about the state bias report.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Those 2 different things. Okay.
They're 2 different things, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, Lisa, I can clean it up a little bit tonight when I get back in.
All
But
right.
I don't see it as essential. I mean, they're numbers, but it kind of gives you the total numbers. So that's a breakdown of that big number, the 150, 57, and 59, I believe. And then
Okay.
all I do in that second sentence is say, you know, for 2023 since January, these are the numbers.
Lisa, for number 8,
What's that?
if Ron doesn't have any data for that second bullet, we should take it out. I don't have any data for that second bullet.
All right, then.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
We just took out the second, but let me get rid of the track changes too, so that's
Right.
delete that. All right. All right, I can try to skip through some of this. I don't want to feel like though I'm speeding real fast, you know. I think we need to give
Lisa, go back. I think there was
what number?
maybe try 13. Yeah, the type in that enforcement of first recommendation, second stronger enforcement. It has read
Huh?
13. I'm on 13.
Okay. What does it have?
In the second line, strong.
Yeah, I saw that too. That's when I was reading it. Okay, delete race. Okay.
Okay.
This is Jackie. I apologize for being late. But on slide 26, there's a we use is and it should be are. Let's see. Where the first one, hate bias incidents is flawed, it should be are flawed. Just edit.
No, we need that. We don't want, you know how they think we can't speak and write. We gotta make sure.
Right. And I didn't get a chance to see out the rest of them because I was late. I was just looking for, you know, the spelling and what have you.
Okay, maybe we take out one of our stories for school. Which one do you guys lead the less? The varsity team, the black band, or the field trip? Which one goes out?
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that too, one of those testimonies.
Okay, so we had the field trip, the black band. Is that it?
We have the varsity team, we have the field trip, and we have the black butt.
Maybe take out the black butt.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Because the field trip has a strong message of you don't belong just because you're black.
Yeah.
And a strong message of white privilege that, you know, we belong and you don't. That gives a strong message of that. And then
Right.
the tennis team is a strong message of refusal to act even when, you know, things are reported.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And improvements are needed. Oh, that's just improvement. Oh, that's just, okay, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, what else? I'm gonna go back to the slides. We like this one. We get it. That's the introduction.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of listing out who you are, I'm just gonna say, here is our committee, give you a second, because I think that takes a lot of time too.
Okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. I mean, they can go back and read if they want to.
Right.
Okay, it'll be easy because that's what I'll try to do is like for this one, I'll just maybe name 2 of the 4 and have people read it. This one I'll say the largest and also mention the Muslims.
Yeah,
This one,
I think for this one, the most of them is Protestant, and so, you know, I don't know if we need to spend a lot more time on you know,
okay.
spelling that out. I think you did a good job on presenting the why slavery is still relevant. Your wording was, I thought, great. I don't think I would change anything on what you said.
I hope I can remember for tomorrow.
All right. Okay. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will.
Okay, so and maybe I'll talk about, I'll just say, and please read this, and then I'll say the peonage of sharecropping was basically Black people working for free, another form of slavery.
Yeah, Black people were cheated out of their share of the profits.
Yeah.
That's what that was all about.
Okay.
They were cheated out of their share of the profits on the crops. Period.
All right. And then this one is pretty evident, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty evident. Just the numbers, and you're good.
And then I'm going to talk about
One thing about 8 though is a point about 8 is if we didn't have the cell phones with everybody having cameras now, this would still be a problem. This will be a worse problem.
and
This problem has been made better by now. People have cell phones, so there's evidence to go against what police are saying.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Write that down. Okay. I actually might want to put that in the slide. I think that's a very powerful statement. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And then I'll say this is our methodology. We did surveys, we had listening sessions, and we looked at the data.
Mm-hmm. I think too, Lisa, just because this was kind of like your first time going through it with us as a rehearsal, I think that when you do this, just a matter of it being the second time or so, you'll shave probably about 3 minutes off this, just in that.
Okay. Thank you for your vote of confidence. So I always do it when I do speak, I have a timer. So I'm like, okay, I got 1 minute for this slide. So I do try to, don't worry, Selena, I'm not gonna.
Okay.
So Selena won't try to pull off the hook. And I'm like, what happened? Where's my screen? And then this, I think these are fine. This is fine. Ron said he gave me stuff, so I'll take a look at that. This is fine. I'm not sure this slide helps me a lot because it was really cumbersome. So I'll take a look at this one. Trend and purpose.
I think that slide is important because it says that from the law enforcement counter, we're being charged with a high percent of these, charges that are coming down or against our people.
No, but it is. So the graph says one thing, but the words say something else. So this is about Black people defendants, and then the point is hate bias incidents are higher this year over the last year. It's increasing. That has nothing.
I got you. It doesn't go with the slide.
Yes, I'm going to delete that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. I think this is true. Do we say something about the state's attorneys? I might put this sentence, the previous slide, because I think the next 2 bullets are important. I'm gonna put this one up here. Paste. Okay, so that's about that. And then this one's about there is a strong sentiment amongst Black people that Montgomery County criminal justice system continues to fail Black people and Black students in particular. There are large disparities in arrest, prosecution, adjudication, and punishment of white men. See, this doesn't match the slide though.
Yeah, the slide says that a lot of Black people are being brought up on charges. That's the point of that slide, what that slide is saying. Yeah, I think that's really all that slide is. The other stuff I'm not really seeing. I mean, it's kind of a stretch for those first 2. That's not really what the slide is saying.
Unanimous.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Now this is in part because it's very hard, the burden is very high for to be charged with a hate bias crime. So that that's what they're gonna say. I just want you to know that I've heard it before.
Mm-hmm.
I may leave that one in, so I'll work on that one.
Okay.
This says maybe say the same thing. I don't know. What about this slide? Can we
That's a good
Yeah, that's
slide.
all like repeating
Like
what the
it?
other one said.
You like it?
Well, if that says the same thing as the other one, it says it
As the
better.
previous one, yeah, so,
Okay, maybe I'll combine those two.
Mhm.
yeah, I think you should.
Somebody try to get rid of my slide, but I don't know about that. I think you want to get rid of that because you don't like what I had to say about that. You try to, what happened? I'll just let it stand. I'll just let it stand. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it. I'm trying to be very careful because I'm not anti-Semite. I just want to put this out there.
Okay.
Hey, these are good. I'll do two of these. And I think I like the putting a gun to your head and saying the N-word. That's pretty profound.
That's strong. That's strong. The other thing I was going to tell you about this one is like that fourth bullet, the white on you may want to consider your color of font. Some of the other ones show fine, but when you get down to that bottom one, it doesn't really show that well.
You like black better?
I think it would show better.
Okay, that's what we need. Oops, maybe make it bold. Okay.
Yeah, it does.
Oops, I did the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, I think that shows better.
Mhm.
So I'll do two from here, two as well. Two from here, two. And then that will shorten our time. So it looks like I'm just basically gonna have to do some Cliff Notes versions of the slides.
Yeah.
And maybe just highlight the recommendations. All right. How much time do we have for Q&A, Selena?
Actually, no one's ever said that you have 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Oh, they get to talk more than we. Okay.
Just until the questions run out. But I mean, that's the other thing about some of these. You can always insert or integrate, what you would like to say in the questions and answers, as
That's true.
opposed to the presentation.
That's true.
Okay. Which one do we want to, so anyone have any preference for law enforcement? Which of the recommendations do you like? I'll do one from each or two from each.
You keep two from each or remove two from each?
I'm going to only talk about two from each.
Talk about two from each.
Which one do you guys really want to talk about?
Go back to the 30. Oh, that's not recommendation. I'm sorry.
It is.
It is?
I'll go through it if you get, and we can figure that out. So that, I think that will get us at 35. 35 minutes is what I'm writing down. Okay. And then of course, let me see, I'm gonna save this document on her. I'm also gonna tee up the YouTube video, so it's not just on the slide. I'm gonna pull it out I'm gonna have it just in case it doesn't work. I will also have a link to it open so I can just click.
And I think that will shave time off the play.
Okay.
They seem to play smoother directly
outside,
incorporated into PowerPoint. I think that will shave some of your time.
Okay. You said it's smoother outside the PowerPoint or inside the PowerPoint?
Smoother outside the PowerPoint. My experience is they're smoother outside the PowerPoint.
And I would think for the Q&A, since I think the chair they should facilitate the Q&A. So if I have a question, about slide 30. The person who I think should answer, who should respond would be Ron or Tiffany, and they can say, "Oh, that's a great question, Lisa. Why don't you answer?" "Oh, that's a question, Reverend Bodie, why don't you answer?" Or they can answer, and then we don't have to say anything.
That's
and then
cool. That works.
Ron and Tiffany, are you guys okay with that? Okay, I think that.
Yeah, he's got.
He just hung up on himself. All right, so
He hung up because he was in full agreement.
okay, that's good. All right, so that means I think we're ready. What I'll do is I will go through the slides one more time and try. I do have you know, I have during the workday, it's really hard for me to make changes. So I'd ask if you have any changes to do it by today, and that way I can get familiarized with what we have. But I won't be able to do last minute Lucy's because of the schedule I have. So let's just agree that we'll get something together if you have any comments. And if they don't make it, and it's not personal, it's just I didn't have capacity for it. And then the next step obviously would be for us to talk about our written report, which we don't have to do. Let's just get through tomorrow and then make some suggestions about how we move forward. Sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Does anyone have anything else before we move for adjournment? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second, Jackie.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you.